welcome to the 2022 Capital Improvement Program Neighborhood Informational Presentation. I'm Andy Radig, and I'm joined today by City of Oshkosh Director of Public Works, James Rabe. Thanks for being here, James.
Thank you, Andy. Great to be back in the studio and presenting some information for everybody.
Absolutely. Is it correct that you used to present this program at a public meeting format?
Yeah, historically we've done a neighborhood public informational meeting where we've invited, in particular, the people that are living on properties adjacent to the big street reconstruction projects. Last year, with the status of the global health pandemic, we transitioned out of some face-to-face meetings and started doing this type of a recording. This year we're doing the recording again, and going forward I think we'll transition back into some face-to-face meetings, but we're going to continue to do this type of a recording as well. That way, if people are unable to make the meeting or just forgot some of the things that were talked about, it gives them another opportunity to go out to the CIP webpage on the city's website to look at the video again and refresh their memory or get information for the first time if they weren't able to make it.
Okay, great. Well, what kinds of items are included in a capital improvement program?
Really, it's anything capital expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
The City of Oshkosh's capital improvement program has a wide range of improvements that are a part of the capital plan. It's the big things are our street and utility reconstruction programs, some other street projects. There's a lot of utility projects that are just freestanding utility-only projects for the storm, the wastewater, and the water utility, the sidewalk rehab program, and other new sidewalks, traffic improvements such as upgrading lights and signals and improving street lighting, improvements at the parks, other public property improvements, whether that be general city or the utility projects. And all of our major equipment really falls into the capital improvement program. So all of the trucks and other things that we use on a day-to-day basis. And then all of our tax incremental financing districts. There's a lot of projects that go on to plan for improvements to help those districts. So anything that's not funded in the operating budget is generally part of the capital budget. Mm-hmm. And it's a part of the capital plan, which then becomes budgeted for when the council approves the budgets later in the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good.
So a little bit of information. About 4 or 5 years ago, we developed this interactive map tool that people can use. The image on this one is from last year's CIP, but we're still working on getting that updated, and we'll have that up on the website here in the next week or so. But it really lets you go through and focus in on either an area of the city or any of the bar graphs on this interactive map are clickable and sortable. So, for example, bottom middle is all the years. So if you just wanted to look at stuff that's in the 2022 CIP, you could click on the year 2022 in that bar graph, and it'll filter out all of the other stuff and update all the other graphs accordingly. And the same thing with the types of projects, whether it's paving, stormwater, water. All of those are filters that you can click on to narrow down your search. Also, as you zoom in on the map, it filters all the other data to just what's displayed on the map screen. So very interactive and easy to use. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's been a great tool for helping us get information out about the 5-year program as a whole.
Okay, it's more or less a dashboard for folks.
Exactly what it is. It's a dashboard, an interactive dashboard for people.
Okay.
Our biggest projects obviously are our annual street reconstruction projects. Those have the biggest impact on property owners. Because, quite frankly, their street's closed for several months, mm-hmm. Or at least torn up and closed for other parts of it. So looking ahead into the 2022 CIP, we kind of break our streets down by their functional classification, whether they're arterials, which are kind of the main thoroughfares, collectors, or the local streets. So we've got kind of a mixture of everything in the street reconstruction program for 2022. Obviously, the biggest project of the year is Algoma Boulevard, from Wisconsin Street all the way to Congress Avenue. So that's from Wisconsin all the way through the university, up through the neighborhood association, up past the museum to Congress. That is a mile-long stretch of street. So mm-hmm. that is going to be a very large project, and it's going to have a lot of impacts. We've been coordinating with the university already for several months now, and we will continue to coordinate with them mm-hmm. Just to try to make the project go as smooth as possible. Inevitably, because it's such an old street with such old infrastructure, there's going to be some unknowns that we're going to encounter, but we're doing a lot of pre-planning with our partners in the university and the private utility companies to really identify everything that we think is going to be there so we can work around it in the plan.
Okay, and then that also includes the utilities under the street, is that correct?
Yes, it's a complete reconstruction, so sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer will all be replaced. Right now it's a utility-owned street lighting, so it's on the WPS power poles. We'll be converting that over to a city-owned street lighting system as well. The rapidly flashing rectangular beacons that are in use at the Reeve Memorial Crossing right now, but not at any of the other crossings along Algoma. All of those pedestrian crossings will get those beacons as well. And generally, we've met with Wisconsin Public Service already to talk about their improvements. They're working with the university on trying to do some undergrounding of their electric in that area as well. So there's going to be a lot of things going on throughout the course of next summer on Algoma, and a lot of utility work before the street can even get started on paving.
Okay, and then we also have some other classification of streets.
Yeah, moving down, the next one in the classification list is generally a collector. So, those kind of take all your neighborhood streets and start funneling them towards the larger streets. On our list for this year is Rosalia Street. Right now we're working on CP Avenue from Bowen to the lake. Rosalia next year will start at CP Avenue and go up to Washington Avenue. This is really being driven in part by getting another major water utility backbone feed out of the water filtration plant. Right now there's a large distribution main that comes out down Merritt. Another one comes out Washington. So this is providing a little extra redundancy and getting another large outfeed from the plant. But we also have to do a lot of storm and sanitary work. So the entire street on Rosalia is going to be reconstructed, and all of those utilities underground will be redone again. This street's going to get a little bit narrower. Right now it's very wide, so it'll get a little bit narrower, so the terraces will get a little bit bigger. So there'll be a little more grass and a little more green space as this project wraps up versus how it looks right now.
Okay. And speaking of green space and seasonal things here, generally when does the construction process begin?
The process begins really, in all honesty, last summer with topo survey and design on Algoma.
Okay.
We've had our design engineers working on Algoma since last fall, and so that we could have these preliminary meetings with the university to coordinate on that project. But the actual construction season itself, I would anticipate for a project like Algoma, our contractor will probably start with the underground utility work sometime in March. And given the size of that project, it'll probably be Thanksgiving before they get done.
Okay.
So it's a very long project. It's not linear, meaning that there are some spots that the contractor could start a couple different places along the project. For example, we're doing a bunch of storm sewer work from High to Algoma on Vine Avenue, and Vine's being reconstructed as a part of it. So the storm sewer, that's one outlet out of Algoma where the contractor, when they're doing storm, they could start there and work both ways on Algoma. They could start at the former Blackhawk Street vacated right-of-way, which is where the pedestrian mall is, from Reeve Union down to the Alumni Welcome Center area. So there's a lot of different ways that they can kind of stage and work that way, but I expect Algoma will take the full construction season. Some of the other projects, Rosalia and some of the local streets that we'll be getting to here, they'll start a little bit later. They'll be a little bit smaller projects. So they'll start probably April, but again, October, November timeframe before they get done.
Just a question, these streets are, many of these are in a residential setting. Will the residents be able to get into their driveways during the construction?
Yes and no. During the utility construction portion of it, there will be some intermittent restrictions, meaning when the backhoe's digging the sanitary sewer right in front of your house, you're not going to be able to get into your driveway for probably several hours.
Okay.
But if you leave in the morning and come back in the afternoon, chances are they will have gotten past your house during the day. But when it does come to the concrete paving part of the project, access will be cut off for approximately a 6-week time frame, because they have to get in and grade the street, pour concrete on one side of the street, then flip to the other side of the street a week later, and then they have to come back and do some grading of the terraces and get the sidewalk work done. So it's generally about a 6-week window during paving operations where you will not be able to get into your driveway.
Okay, okay. And I understand that there would be special accommodations made if somebody might have a disability or need some assistance.
Yeah, if we become, at any time, if we become aware of somebody in particular with disabilities that, can't walk that far or are in a wheelchair or something like that, Andy, we have our contractor work with those individuals, and we get them some designated parking as close as possible to their house. Mm-hmm. And we ask those residents to please contact the engineering division office and talk to the design engineer. Really, anytime starting now. Mm-hmm. They could call the office at 236-5065 and ask to speak to either the design engineer or one of the supervisors, and just let them know, hey, we live on this street and we've got some concerns that we want to talk to about access.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we talked about some different classifications of streets. We also have some local streets.
Yeah, local streets. I mentioned Vine Avenue a little bit earlier, but also East Lincoln Avenue from North Main Street to the railroad tracks. We've done some work in this area in the past with Mount Vernon and Grand Street, and Mount Vernon was about 6 years ago, I think, and Grand was a couple years before that. Mm-hmm. So, this is kind of getting some more segments of that done. East 9th Avenue, that's tied with the redevelopment going on in that area. Mm-hmm. We are committed on some of those redevelopment projects to getting this street done. So, as we continue to work with the developer, that's the RDA is selected for redeveloping that whole area. We need to work on getting East 9th completed. Mm-hmm. And then Bradley Street right now, from 28th Avenue to Walcott Avenue, we originally had that in the plan. As we worked with the city manager and the finance director to kind of balance the budgets, that one got slid back. So council right now is talking about maybe adding some things back into the program. So we'll see where that one falls. If it doesn't fall into the 2022, it'll probably show up again in 23 or 24.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I understand too that residents can get some additional information as far as what these projects would cost for them.
Yeah, the city has a special assessment policy for any of our particular street reconstruction program. So the special assessment policy and the rates are on the city's website. We'll talk a little bit later on here today about what the current rates are. We have not established the rates for the 2022 construction season yet. So at this point it would just be estimating for people based on the 2021 rates. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on, but that's always a big question that we get during our presentations. How much is this going to cost?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So moving on a little bit with the street reconstruction program. If you've driven down Algoma recently, you'll have noticed that there's a contractor out there televising underground utilities right now. That contractor is working for the city, televising the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer, so we can see where service connections are and see if there's anything that we don't have in the records that we need to investigate a little further, so we can get that shown on the plans so that we can make sure that we don't miss things during the reconstruction program.
Right.
We'll also have a contractor out doing soil borings later this fall. There'll be some traffic restrictions in place during that time frame, but they'll be kind of drilling holes in the ground and identifying the various soil strata that we are dealing with. And it also helps us, as we do our environmental records review, it helps us determine, okay, there used to be a gas station at this corner. We might be looking at some petroleum contamination. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take some extra samples, some extra drillings in those areas, mm-hmm. and we'll send those samples off for testing so we can identify in our bid documents, okay, there's going to be some petroleum contamination here, we need to do this with it, or we need to do that with it. Mm-hmm. So again, it's trying to give as much information to our contractor during the bidding process versus once they start construction. Mm-hmm. If they know about it during the bidding process, they can't come back and say, hey, this isn't what you portrayed to us, you need to pay us more. Mm-hmm. That can happen when unforeseen things show up during construction. It'll be, hey, this isn't what you told us, now we got to work on a change order to add this, and sometimes take things out too. Mm-hmm. It all depends on what we encounter. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about the televising already, but we've got some construction access agreements that have been sent out for Algoma already, and will be getting sent out later this fall for the rest of the streets. And what that does is it allows us to televise up their sewer laterals, just to make sure that if it's a live connection or not, or if there's any issues. If we see any issues on the private side, we're going to let people know, hey, you might have some issues here, you need to get a plumber in to talk to you a little bit more about. So those are all things that are going to be coming out in the various letters that we send, property owners adjacent to our projects.
Okay, and then also there's some sanitary sewer projects coming up.
Yes, the Oregon Street project has been going on for several years now. That started back in 2018.
Big project.
Very big project. It started with, installing an interceptor starting at 8th and Oregon, ultimately going south all the way to Ripple Avenue. So several miles of reconstruction. We're complete all the way to Waukau Avenue as of this year. So next year in 2022, we'll be looking at going from Waukau Avenue to West 35th Avenue.
Okay.
Then the last stage of the project from 35th down to Ripple will be done in conjunction with Winnebago County and a state DOT reconstruction of Oregon Street, or County Trunk Highway I, from 35th down to Ripple. So there'll be kind of a 1-year gap in between before that state project gets bid to finish it off, and then the street will get repaved from about 35th south to Ripple as a part of that project. Another big interceptor project that we'll be working on next year is Bowen Street from Murdoch Avenue to Anchorage Court. Back in 2008, we started with a big interceptor expansion starting at about Parkway and Hazel. Went up Hazel to New York to Bowen, and then Bowen all the way up to Murdoch. There used to be a sanitary sewer pump station right on the corner of Bowen and Murdoch. By getting that interceptor extended up that far, we're able to eliminate that pump station, which reduces our operating and maintenance costs, because now we don't have electric costs, we don't have natural gas costs, we don't have to upkeep on pumps and controllers and all of that. So the sewer project helped us eliminate that pump station. This next stage will help us eliminate the pump station at Anchorage Court. So then there'll be 2 pump stations eliminated, as well as a lot of force main that, quite frankly, is old and it's in poor condition. We've had several breaks on that sewer force main over the years, and so we have to send out, really, it's our water distribution crews that have to go out and work on that, because it is a pressurized pipe, and they have all the materials and supplies and the know-how to deal with that. But then they have to disinfect all of their equipment again before they can work on a water main project. So we're trying to get rid of some old, poor condition force main, as well as eliminate these pump stations and reduce our overall operation and maintenance costs as a part of it.
Okay, that makes sense. And then also there's some work being planned, sort of a major project over at water filtration.
Yeah, certainly. We've had a lot of talk about the Clearwell project. We did a workshop with the Common Council, and there's been a lot of continued discussions about that. We continue to move forward with some of the analysis, and we're preparing for a public information meeting that we're hoping to get scheduled later in August, or if not, early September, to talk more about that project. It's been one that's been in the works for a long time. The Department of Natural Resources has identified a deficiency in the storage tanks out there right now, being that they're underground below the groundwater table. So there's a significant amount of work that would need to be done to do any type of construction to bring that storage up to code. And we need about 2 million gallons of treated water storage on that site, not only to help us, if, say, for example, there's a significant fire overnight and the fire department's using 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 gallons a minute of water to battle a blaze, our operators at the water filtration plant will see those water tower elevations start dropping on their control system, and they'll start firing up some more pumps to pump water from this storage tanks back into the system. That water is also used to help backwash our filter systems in the treatment process. It's very similar to a swimming pool filter. Anybody who has a swimming pool knows that periodically you have to backwash that filter media and clean it out. The same thing applies for our filter media at the water filtration plant. So that we had a very detailed study that identified that we needed to keep about 2 million gallons of storage on site. So we're going to be continuing to move forward with that, and also next year we'll be repainting the Fernau Avenue water tower and adding a mixing system in there to help improve water quality. But the paint job, it's necessary. We take those out of service on a very regular basis and have them inspected by a consultant who specializes not only in water towers but water tower coatings and can tell when, all right, this one needs to be done. And this is a full repaint, interior and exterior. So not only will the outside look different, but also the inside where our treated water is stored is going to get a fresh coat of paint to help make sure that we're protecting that water supply from maybe coming into contact with the metals that are a part of the tank. And the mixing system helps improve the water quality in the tank.
Okay, very good. And then it looks like folks also have the opportunity to replace their lead water service.
Yeah, this has been a program for 3-4 years now. The Department of Natural Resources has made funding available through the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program. As a part of all of our utility projects and our street reconstruction projects, the city replaces the public portion of the service, so from the main to the curb stop and the terrace. And then if beyond that, if the private service is lead, our code updates require those property owners to replace that as well. Residential property owners at this time do have an eligibility for cost sharing of that. Right now the city is negotiating terms of the most recent Safe Drinking Water Loan Program grant for the replacement of private water services. There's a couple of things that we're going back and forth with the department on right now to clarify and iron out, because they're trying to bring a few things up to some of the new federal lead and copper standards. So we got to go back and forth a little bit more and iron a few of those details out. But certainly, Jessie Balcom is our management analyst for our utilities, and she's the one who's heading up our lead service replacement program. So Jessie can be reached at 236-5258, and there's more information on the water utility webpage as well. To date, we've helped quite a few people get their private side lead services replaced. Hopefully we can come to terms with some of these new requirements the DNR is trying to place in our agreement, and we can keep doing that for as long as that funding is available.
Okay. And then we also, we talked about it a little bit earlier, James, but there are some access-related challenges during construction periods. Can you just highlight some of those issues again? Yeah,
obviously anytime you've got a street closed due to, reconstructing of it, it's going to be hard to keep access. So, we kind of got to work through those things with the property owners. City collected garbage is one of those access issues. We know what day each area is collected, so we write it right in the contract that, hey, contractor garbage pickup is on this day. You got to help the sanitation division be able to get in and out. And if they can't get down the street, contractor, you got to help them by bringing carts back and forth. What the sanitation division does is anywhere there's an ongoing project, they alter their route so they get in right away at 7 o'clock and then get out so the contractor can work for the rest of the day. So, if you're used to, oh, my garbage doesn't get picked up till 8:30, I can put it out, before I leave for work in the morning. Well, if your street's under construction, it's going to get picked up, within the first 20-30 minutes of the day. So you got to kind of alter your thinking a little bit on that, and not get too used to, oh, I can just put it out later. We talked a little bit about the vehicle access to driveways being restricted during utilities, but being out of your driveways for about 6 weeks during pavement operations. We do write in our contracts that access to businesses needs to be maintained. A lot of times, if they have two driveways, we can keep one open while another one's closed. But even if there's only one driveway, we got those contractors have to work around that and make sure businesses can stay accessible. Generally speaking, parking is going to be available on adjacent cross streets, and we take a look at parking restrictions on those cross streets, and at times we have altered those parking restrictions to be a little more accommodating during construction season. So it is difficult. Certainly, everybody likes to be able to park in their driveway, but there will come a time, during paving operations where it's just not possible.
Okay, right.
My street was done a couple of years ago, and I had to park around the corner on a side street and walk walk in the last little bit. It's just how it works.
It's temporary situation.
Right.
Okay, all right. And then also postal delivery would be altered a little bit during these times as well.
Yeah, certainly. If you've got a mailbox that's mounted on your house, that's not impacted. Your postal carrier is going to continue walking up and delivering your mail to your house. But anywhere where there's the rural type mailboxes that are out at the street, that delivery will be impacted. And they may need to be temporarily relocated, and the contractor works with the post office on that, to try to make sure that people can still get their mail. Because as much as we've gone electronic in this world, there's a lot of mail that still gets delivered by the U.S. Postal Service, and a lot of things that we order online get delivered by the U.S. Postal Service too. So
sure.
We need to make sure that they can get in and do their job as well. And we talked a little bit about some of the special needs challenges that construction projects present. And certainly if anybody, or if you're aware of any of your neighbors that have a disability that hampers mobility, please call the engineering division and, like I said before, ask to speak with either the design engineer or one of the supervisors so that, they can coordinate with those individuals and get it written into the contract ahead of time.
Okay. And then you have a little bit of background information about project costs. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but...
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. The biggest thing is, the special assessment policies on our webpage, and, that's what we follow as far as, putting together our estimates for the projects for the individual property owners. As I mentioned before, the rates for 2022 have not been established yet. But some of the rates for 2021, are presented on screen, and that information is also available on the website. So, people can use that to try to estimate at this time what they think it might be of a cost to them, or they can always contact the engineering division office as well, and we'll have a staff member try to walk through them on the calculations for not only the street portion of the cost, but also the utility portions of the cost. So the assessment costs are not just for the street itself or for the sidewalk, but also for things like the sewer laterals or sewer relays. On already developed streets, where you already have a sanitary sewer lateral to your house, we split that cost 50-50 with the property owners. But if a new lateral is going in, that cost would be 100% to the property owner. We install storm laterals to every property as a part of our reconstruction projects. That way, people have a spot to direct sump pump discharges to, or they can connect to that and extend it onto their property more if they have some drainage issues that they want to try to deal with on their property. Again, the same thing with water laterals. The city is responsible up to the curb stop, so that is 100% our cost. But if there's a new water service going into a property, that would be 100% the property owner's cost. And then, sidewalk rehab, new sidewalk, driveway aprons, those are all costs that are calculated in. And when we prepare our estimates that get sent out to the property owners prior to the public hearing, they get a full estimate of what is anticipated the cost to be.
Okay, so they can really find all that information about all the details of the costs, and that would be through the Public Works website?
Yes, you can find information, the Public Works website and the Capital Improvement Program page.
Okay.
Actually, there's a link on the website right under the Government tab. There's a CIP link, Capital Improvement Program. All of that information is available right there at that link, rather than having to try to navigate through the Public Works page to find it.
Okay.
There's a separate link right there for the Capital Improvement Program.
Okay, all right, very good. And I know that the Common Council has already had some budget discussions, some workshop meetings, but those are in process.
Yes, Common Council started with a workshop on June 29th, really talking a lot about the Capital Improvement Program. At that workshop, they decided they wanted to do a little bit more in general obligation borrowing. So then at the July 13th and 27th Common Council meetings, they held workshops before both of those meetings to continue talking about the Capital Improvements Program. The Capital Improvement Program will be heard by the Plan Commission on August 17th, and then the Common Council is scheduled to approve the plan for the Capital Improvement Program at their August 24th meeting. And then moving into the budgeting side of it, there'll be a budget hearing on November 3rd, and then the budget approval for both the capital improvement plan and the operating budget is scheduled for November 9th.
Okay. So we'll remind folks of those dates in upcoming programs and some of our social media, just to make sure that folks are aware of those opportunities to find out more.
And there's a section at the end of every council meeting where the city manager talks about upcoming workshops and what else is coming on. And some of these budget workshops are already in that calendar that the city manager talks about at the council meetings as well.
Okay.
So there's several opportunities for people to see and hear more and provide input on the capital improvement program.
Okay. And how can folks get more information about the capital improvements program just in general?
The first way, obviously, we've talked a lot about the information that's available on the website. Up on the screen now is some contact information, not only for myself, but also Steve Godey, the Assistant Director of Public Works and the Utilities General Manager, and Justin Gierock, the City Engineer and Engineering Division Manager. Obviously the city's main web page is there. There's a dedicated Department of Public Works email address that people can send questions to in advance. Once we get into the actual construction projects, the department maintains an email distribution list that people can sign up to receive weekly updates on construction projects during construction, and all of the letters that we send out to people contain information on how they can sign up for receiving those weekly updates during construction. And there's also a list of all of the email distribution lists that are available on our department webpage as well. So, in addition to emailing our main address, like I said, you can get weekly updates from our construction team. It's our construction managers and our inspectors that send that information out on a weekly basis. So, we're trying to, anybody that wants to get regular information, there's several different ways that they can do that. I know there's a weekly construction update that's sent out on the website, and I believe you do a lot of posting of that on their social media accounts as well.
And the map and everything.
The map, and here's where construction is. So yes, there are a lot of avenues to receive that information.
Okay. Plenty of opportunities for folks.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we want. We want this to be an open process where if somebody's got a question, we want to give them as many avenues as possible to either find the answer or get a hold of us and ask the question. The engineering division phone number, again, I'll throw it out there, 920-236-5065. The engineering office is open from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. People can call there at any time, or after hours, like I said, you can email our general public works email address, and somebody will get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about capital improvement programs?
I think the biggest thing is, there's a lot of work to be done. I know it's disruptive when you live adjacent to a construction project. We ask people to please be patient and understanding. The contractors are doing their best to get in and out as quickly as possible and do the job according to the plans and specifications. At the end of the day, we want the best product for everybody, and that requires us all to have a little bit of patience and a little bit of understanding, because at the end of the day, there's only a few months of construction season in Wisconsin. We've got good construction weather generally from late April, early May till middle of October. As we mentioned before, we're starting in the middle of March on some of these projects and expecting to go till Thanksgiving. So we're working outside of the good months because some of the projects are just that big. So a little patience, a little understanding that we are limited by our climate here in the northern states, and it rules out about half of the year for construction.
Well, like they say in Wisconsin, it's either road construction season or it's winter.
That's very true. It's either snow plows or barrels, one of the two.
Okay, all right, and that keeps you folks very busy in public works.
Yes, it does.
Okay, well, appreciate your time, James. Thanks for coming in today and for giving us some background information about the CIP.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay. And again, if folks would like any more information about the capital improvement program, please visit the city's website at ci.oshkosh.wi.us, and you can find all the details there. So thanks again for watching today, and have a good day.